Introductory Macroeconomics. So today we are going to study the first chapter of economics, that is just introduction to what macroeconomics is and introduction to what your further chapters are. Okay, so yeah. So first, what is macroeconomics? Macroeconomics, how is it derived? It's derived from a Greek word that's macros, okay? And what does macros actually mean? It means large, okay, huge. And what does huge means in terms of economics? It means economy as a whole. Like when we consider the whole Indian economy as a whole, then we are talking about macroeconomics. Otherwise, like last year we studied microeconomics, okay? Like when we were talking on producer level, consumer level, okay, on one firm's level, that was microeconomics. But here we are going to study about the whole country in one level. So now we are going to get into macroeconomics. What does it mean? So its definition is it's the branch of economics that studies economic issues or economic problems at the level of economy as a whole. So you just have to memorize it. I think it's short and clear. Now we are going to look at how macroeconomics differs from microeconomics. Okay, and there are 8 points, and we need to memorize all of the 8 points by heart. Okay, so the first point being basis of study. Now in microeconomics we used to study scarcity and choice at the level of one individual, like how if we will buy apples then we'll be more satisfied, or if we'll buy oranges then we'll be more satisfied. If we'll invest in Apple company then we'll be more satisfied. If we'll invest in Google then we'll be more satisfied. Okay, so it is from the level of a consumer or one firm, so that how can they maximize their satisfaction or their profit. Okay, but here we are going to study about how the whole economy, how the national resources of the economy are used so that maximum welfare is so that welfare is maximized basically. Like if in economy we produce more consumer goods, then welfare will be more capital goods, then welfare will be more defense goods, then welfare will be more. After what, that welfare will be most. So that is our issue of macroeconomics, whereas in microeconomics we used to study just in individuals things. Now, economic variable. First thing is very simple. Look, microeconomics variable is microeconomic variable, and macroeconomics variable is macroeconomic variable. Okay. Now, what is microeconomics variable? Microeconomics variable includes things like consumers' demand. What was the consumer's demand? What is the producer's supply? So these basic things are microeconomic variable. Okay. And now macroeconomic variable includes aggregate demand, aggregate supply. Aggregate demand means the entire demand of all the things in a country is called aggregate demand, and supply of all the things in a country is called aggregate supply. Then national income, the income of all the residents of a country is called national income. Okay, so these are like big things that we are going to study as economic variables in macroeconomics. The economic agents, they are the people or the institutions who takes decisions. Okay, so in microeconomics, individuals used to take decisions. Why? Because their main thing is to be to maximize their satisfaction. So and they take decisions in order to maximize their personal gain. Okay. Now an individual will choose whether he has to buy an apple or he has to buy an orange, by which he'll get more satisfaction, isn't it? Now government is not going to choose that for him, but institutions choose that how, like, what does the economy have to do, what does it have to buy, what does it have to sell, so that it can maximize the social welfare in the economy. Now these institutions include SEBI, that's the Securities and Exchange Board of India, RBI, that's the Reserve Bank of India, and many more that we'll study about later. Then we have degree of aggregation. Look, degree of aggregation exists both in micro and macroeconomics. Degree of aggregation means sum total of everything. Okay, like see, but there's limited degree of aggregation in microeconomics. In microeconomics, we study the equilibrium of an industry. Like suppose I'm taking cotton industry, so I study all the institutions or all the textile manufacturing companies within that cotton industry, and I check their degree of aggregation. So there is degree of aggregation in microeconomics also, but it's limited because we study all the firms within industry, and here we study the economy as a whole. That means we study all the industries and all the aggregation, all the satisfaction, everything that is there in all the equilibrium, that how an economy derives equilibrium. That is our main topic in macroeconomics, whereas how an industry derives equilibrium is our main topic in microeconomics. Okay, Now next, it's different set of assumptions. See, when we were studying microeconomics in class 11th, we assumed that the big factors like the total output of the country or the total employment ratio of the country, we assumed these to be constant, okay, because they are very crucial parts in macroeconomics. Whereas, so now when we're studying macroeconomics, we'll take distribution and of income and distribution of output to be constant, which were very crucial parts of microeconomics. Okay, so main macroeconomics variable, we take them to be constant in microeconomics, and main microeconomic variables, we took them to be constant in microeconomics, right? The next, we have central issue. What is the main issue of microeconomics? The main issue of microeconomics is how we allocate resources within people, who has more money, who has less money, who produces what, who consumes what. That is the main basis of microeconomics. But if macroeconomics, it's the determination of how much the overall country is producing, what is the output of the overall nation, what is the employment ratio of our nation. Okay, so it talks on a much larger scale, and here the method of study is partial equilibrium in microeconomics. That means, we'll study right now only, and in macroeconomics it's general equilibrium. So partial equilibrium is when we derive equilibrium in one market. Like suppose there's labor market, okay, everyone's employed, okay, then we are studying regarding the equilibrium in labor market only, assuming the capital market is constant. There's no change in other markets, okay, all the other markets are constant when we are studying about one market, and we only going to study about the equilibrium in that one market. That is what we did in microeconomics. But now in macroeconomics, we are going to study about equilibrium of all the markets in the economy. Of all the markets in the economy, we are going to study the equilibrium of. Okay, we're not going to leave anything. We're not going to assume that there's no change in something else. We are going to take care of everything literally. The next, there's a micro-macro paradox, which means that some things which seems to us that it's logical in micro level may not seem logical at macro level, and some things which seems to us that they're logical at macro level may not look so logical in micro level. Example, saving. Okay, now saving, for individual, saving is so good, right? Because by saving he can get regular income, his bank will pay him regular income, and that's going to be really good for an individual. But imagine if everyone in the economy starts saving, that means they started spending less. That is why they're saving more, right? So first of all, their expenditure goes down, because now they're spending less, so they'll demand less, and now the aggregate demand of the entire economy goes down. And now because there's no demand, so the investment of producers in their firms starts declining, so the investment in the economy goes down, and after that the production goes down. Okay, because there's less investment, there'll be less production. And now in our economy, generally people produce goods, right? It's labor economy, so here employment will go down, and after employment will go down, there'll be depression in the economy. So depression in the economy is definitely not a good sign, so it's a very bad sign. So saving is bad for economy as a whole, but it's like very good for an individual. Okay, now next, we're going to study about the scope of macroeconomics. What is scope of macroeconomics? It's area of macroeconomics. It's basically whatever we're going to study in the later chapters. Like scope of macroeconomics, it's literally your first chapter, second chapter, third chapter, fourth chapter, fifth chapter, sixth chapter's name. That is what they've told the scope of macroeconomics. So once we're done covering the entire syllabus of macroeconomics, you'll be able to tell all the scopes of macroeconomics just like that. But now you might not understand, or you may face issues. Okay, so the first scope being estimation of national income and related aggregates. So this is the next chapter where we are going to study how do we take out the national income. That is the first thing we are going to study in macroeconomics. Next, we are going to study about the theory of employment, where we study why is so much unemployment and employment there, why so much unemployment there, and what can we do to reduce unemployment and to get employment in the economy. Next, we're going to about the theory of money. Okay, that means how does our government create money when our country is in need of money, and how does RBI regulate money? That means when does RBI release money, when does it stop releasing money, whatever it does with money. Okay, we'll study that in detail in this chapter. Next, we have theory of general price level, inflationary and deflationary gap. Inflation, it's when things are very costly, and deflation, it's when things are very cheap. Okay, so when things will be very costly, look, people will not be able to afford to buy it, and people will get in depression. And when things will be very cheap, then producers are going to get in depression. So both of these are wrong, and there should be a balance and equilibrium in the economy. So that is what we are going to study in theory of general price level. The next, we have role of government or government budget. it's like how the budget of government impacts economy. If you know, every year a government budget comes, government tells how much is it going to spend in which sector, education sector, how much, health sector, how much, and how that impacts the entire economy. Next, exchange rate and balance of payments. Exchange rate, like you must have heard, currently $1 is equal to 73.09 rupees. So like that only, the value of dollar and money, it keeps changing. And how does it change? What actually is it, dollar, money, and its change level, and how is it balanced, and all that we are going to study in the last chapter. Okay, so that is the summary of all the chapters we're going to be covering this year. Okay, now we'll get into detail when we get into each chapter. For now, just remember the names. Okay, next, it's significance of macroeconomics. Means what is the importance of learning macroeconomics? Why are we spending so much of our time in learning this subject? Akhirkar, what are we going to get? So first, we're going to get a description of the economy. Description of the economy mein we're going to get what is the national income of the economy. And national income of the economy will tell us so many things. It will tell us like the nature and the level of what are the activities, what are the economic activities that people of a nation are doing. Then we are going to get to know the unemployment ratio, and we can get to know how can we solve this ratio, what are the things that we can do to combat unemployment. Then we'll get to know government budget and how the government regulates our economy. Okay, these all things you're going to get through economy. So macroeconomics gives us a good description of the economy. Next, it's roadmap to growth and development. See, how does growth take place? Growth takes place through policies and programs that are made by the government, economic policies and programs. Okay, and how are these programs made? They are made by assessing macroeconomics. Okay, so macroeconomics helps us to create these policies and these programs that leads to the growth and development of our country. Next, economic stability. Economic stability is achieved when there's good policies in our country. So good policies, for example, monetary policy, fiscal policy. Now don't ask me what is this. We're going to study it in the later chapters. Right now you will not understand and I will not be able to explain. Okay, so we'll study it in the later chapter. But economic stability, say, it's like how government puts what kind of monetary policy, RBI puts it, and what kind of fiscal budgetary policy does government put, so that economy is stable. Next, we're going to study our balance of payment status. It means how our country is performing in comparison to rest of the world. How is it exporting more, or is it importing more? And the performance of our country, where does it lie? That we're going to study in balance of payment status. Means it's an importance that, yeah, we'll get to know about it. And importance of poverty and environmental pollution. So how many people live below poverty line? How is the environment of our country? We'll get to know all this also through macroeconomics. And we can use it to solve all these problems also. Macroeconomics aggregates variables, we can use them to solve the problem of poverty and pollution. And last but not the least, we're going to get to know how to form policies through macroeconomics, because aggregates like aggregate demand, aggregate supply, they're so useful for forming any economic policy. It's formed on the basis of how much is demand, how much is supply, what is the national income, what is the expenditure of the economy, and we get to know all of this through macroeconomics. And through that we are going to form policies. Okay, look, right now you may not understand it completely. As we'll get further into the later chapters, then we'll understand what each of these are, and then we'll ourselves understand the importance of everything. And after doing all of the chapters, once after that you come to this chapter, and this chapter is going to be on your tips. Okay, now thank you very much.